No disrespect towards anyone who practices modern day martial arts or the very popular MMA, mixed martial arts, of the combination of Gracie Jiu-Jitsu and Muay Thai fighting and the whole mixed martial arts thing. No disrespect intended, but in my honest opinion, it doesn't match up against traditional martial arts. Hello everyone, once again this is Dare to Speak. I know this to be a very profound thing, so I'm not trying to talk shit or to, start any trouble with anyone. People are proud of practicing whatever they're practicing. I don't have anything against it. But I just don't like the idea that mixed martial arts of today that we know of, that's very popular right now, that has been popular for the past 10 years, 15 years or whatever, the UFC. To me, I don't really see it as real martial arts at all. You could call it whatever you want, but to me, all it really is just another form of modern day sports of kickboxing and wrestling. Like back in the day, like in the 1970s and the 1980s, when they had Western kickboxing, during the days of Bill Wallace and Benny the Jet Arquez, Rick Rufus, kickboxers like that. And of course Muay Thai was becoming popular after that. All it really is just a combination of these type of kickboxing mixed in with Greco-Roman wrestling and Jiu-Jitsu. So in a sense, it is combat effective. I'm not saying that it isn't. It is combat effective, without a doubt. It is. But to hear people say that it's better, that it's much better than traditional martial arts, I would have to say, fuck you. Because it's not. Especially Chinese martial arts. Chinese Kung Fu, in my opinion, is a lot more combat effective if the martial artist knows what he's doing. Now, Taekwondo, same thing. Karate, traditional karate, pretty much the same thing too. If they know what they're doing, then they could be combat effective. The trouble is that there's too many flakes or wannabes, or people that are good, but they exaggerate in how dangerous they are and things like that. I've seen people like that. So whenever somebody asks me, when I tell them, yeah, I used to practice karate growing up, Taekwondo, I took some Kung Fu. I'm not an expert. I just practice it, but I don't claim to be a master of anything or any kind of like a high-ranking advanced student or whatever. No, I admit, when I was younger, I did study the martial arts. I practiced karate. Taekwondo was my main thing. And I showed pictures of myself earlier, in some earlier videos, when I was more athletic, and when I was skinnier, and I was really into putting on the headgear and the gloves and just go at it with some friends in the backyard. And we would practice a lot of traditional martial arts. Now, the thing, I never really got into any real serious fights, though. That's the thing. That's the thing. But to go as far as to say that it's not as combat effective, because I heard some people say that, and it's becoming more and more irritating, because one guy told me, and I just had to shake my head. He said that a Shaolin monk, he literally basically said this: a Shaolin monk will get his ass kicked in the UFC. That the Gracies will actually take him down, or anybody who knows Gracie Jiu-Jitsu will easily take out a martial artist who's a Shaolin monk. They'll easily take out a Shaolin monk. And I'm like, come on, that's just fucking bullshit. And then we got into like a debate. Well, I used to practice Shaolin when I was younger. Okay, that's you. Okay, you're not a fucking monk. You're not one of those guys that practice 15 hours a day or whatever the case. Like those traditional Shaolin monks that practice for that many hours. They're a solid muscle. They have the flexibility. They have the supernatural or almost supernatural level of physical ability. Shaolin monks are experts in iron palm, iron body, and all this kind of stuff like that. And he says, well, how come they don't enter the UFC? Well, first of all, they're not into that. They don't care for that. A real Shaolin monk, they're not going to get into participate in any kind of a sporting event like that. Now, the thing about it is, a carefully selected Shaolin monk, if they do decide to do that, let's just say they do decide, and they picked a very, carefully selected a Shaolin monk who's dangerous enough for combat, or to enter the UFC or MMA, whatever, and take on any one of the Gracies, the Shaolin monk would win. Without any doubt, he would win. But again, it has to be a carefully selected Shaolin monk. And not only that, but also any of the greats from the 1990s to the entire decade of the 2000s up until now, the 2021. And that's just how it is. Now, there's very few traditional martial artists, especially in Chinese Kung Fu, that could actually live up to the title of being a very lethal martial artist. And this is one example from an historian, which does make a lot of sense to me.
For contemporary Kung Fu practitioners, the existence of Qi has never been under question. When properly focused, this is the energy that enables them to transcend the physical limitations of flesh and blood and perform feats that appear to challenge the impossible. To develop explosive energy, they followed a training regimen of unparalleled severity, a regimen with One objective, to create a warrior whose resolve, no aggressor could disturb. The tests of the Shaolin were no less extreme.
Now, a lot of people are saying, well, you've been watching too many kung fu movies and this, that, it's all fake. It's not the same thing. It's all theatrics. It's, it's not real fighting, and it's not going to work in a real street fight. And that's not necessarily true. And if you really think about it, even in those days of the 1700s, in the 1800s, or whatever, stuff like that, there was peasant uprisings in China. And during the times when weapons were outlawed, when the Chinese had to go up against the Chinese government that was taking over at that time, and that time was during the Manchus, during the Qing dynasty. There was a lot of rebels that wanted to fight back. So when they learned Kung Fu, and then they started creating their own little organizations. There was the White Lotus Clan, the 8 Trigram Society, the Lama Clan, and you name it. There's like different types, and there's all the Shaolin monks. When the Shaolin monks were actually killed, and then there was just 5 survivors left that escaped the Shaolin Temple because of the fact that they were harboring Han rebels that were supporting the Ming Dynasty, and that's a criminal offense. So they destroyed the temple and they killed all the monks. But one person said that they're not going to be easy to beat. They're going to be seriously. Basically, he was saying they're going to be a bitch and a half to beat, to kill. So I'll do you guys a favor and make it easier on you, so you won't have to lose that many soldiers. So he poisoned the water. There was a Shaolin monk who was a renegade, who got corrupted. He actually poisoned the water so it'll affect the monks' breathing. They'll get winded easily, and also it'll have an effect on their physical strength. They become kind of weak, a little bit weak and sluggish. So they were not up to full strength when they fought. So that was a sneaky, underhanded thing to do. So when the Qing troops actually fought the monks, and they actually went at it, they were easier to beat because of that. So not only does Chinese martial arts, that's known today as Kung Fu, or Chuan Fa, the Chinese way of the fist, not only does it work, but to lethal effect. Like I was explained, what I was explained earlier. And to think that it would not work in a mixed martial arts against an MMA fighter, that they'll lose every time. To be as arrogant as to say that is very idiotic, extremely idiotic. It does work, and to me it's a lot more combat effective and a lot more lethal, a lot more dangerous than any MMA fighter that ever lived. Any MMA champion fighter that ever lived. You will not stand a chance against a Shaolin monk, a real Shaolin monk, who's actually very dangerous. And of course, there's no time machine. There's no way we could actually, bring one from the past and bring them over here to the modern days. obviously, but you get what I'm saying in that sense. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Questions or comments, you know what to do. And this is Dare to Speak. And to all of you, take care.